short overview of the current pandemic of the COVID-19 and the basics of the importance and the rationale for the use of vaccines and how important it is to have oneself vaccinated. What we know about COVID-19 today is that it is known as infection caused by what we call as SARS-CoV-2. And this is what actually causes the COVID-19, and it can result in a range of illnesses from mild symptoms to severe illness and death. And about 30% of persons infected with the SARS-CoV-2 do not have any symptoms. And we can't really predict the cause of the disease in the affected person. Some people, such as adults 65 and older, or people with certain medical conditions, are more likely than others to become severely ill. Now, how do we prevent this COVID-19? We are all told to wear a mask that covers our mouth and nose, avoid close contacts with others. We are to stay at least 6 feet or about 2 arms length from other persons when we are outside. We are to avoid crowds and poorly ventilated spaces. We are to wash hands often with soap and water. We are supposed to use alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol if soap and water are not available. And we are supposed to avoid touching our eyes, nose, and mouth with our unwashed hands. And we are to keep clean and disinfect those frequently touched surfaces where we come into daily contact, be it our house, workplace, or even our vehicles. But most important, it is by getting a COVID-19 vaccine. Why is COVID-19 vaccination a safer way to build the protection? This is because getting the virus that causes COVID-19 do offer some natural protection due to the antibody or the immune response of the body. But experts don't know how long such a protection can last. The risks of severe illness and death from such an infection can far outweigh any benefits of the natural immunity. However, with COVID-19 vaccination, unlike the natural immunity derived from an infection of the virus, COVID-19 vaccination will help you by protecting and building up your immunity without the risk of a severe illness. Now, there are some key facts that we need to know about COVID-19 vaccination. For one, we must remember getting vaccinated can help prevent getting sick with the virus. And people who have already gotten sick with the virus may still benefit from getting vaccinated. But we must bear in mind, COVID-19 vaccines cannot give you the disease, which is the COVID-19 virus. And COVID-19 vaccines will not cause one to be tested positive on any COVID-19 viral tests. COVID-19 vaccines are being held to the same safety standards of all vaccines as in the past. As you might remember, the first use of vaccine was developed by a doctor named Edward Jenner in the 18th century, and that led to the development of the smallpox vaccine. Since then, vaccinology as a field of biomedical science and technology has grown by leaps and bounds. We must also remember, before any vaccine is authorized, the regulatory agency, such as the Food and Drug Administration in the US, or in Europe, they have its equivalent, and in Malaysia, it is the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Authority. And these are agencies which carefully reviews all safety data from all clinical trials. And then we have the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which reviews all safety data before recommending the use of a vaccine. And after the authorization, these regulatory agencies, be it the FDA in US or the CDC, or in each country, like we have the Ministry of Health and the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Authority, which closely monitor vaccine safety and its side effects. There are systems in place that allow all these regulatory agencies to watch for safety issues. Now, safety is paramount. Before any of the COVID vaccines can be authorized for widespread use in the population, the manufacturers have to demonstrate that they are safe and effective. And tens of thousands of people across the world have already received the COVID-19 vaccines in clinical trials. And no serious adverse reactions to the vaccines were seen in the trial participants who received them. This is authenticated by the regulatory agencies, and if there is any change to such a situation, they are carefully monitored and immediate steps are taken. Any reactions reported were similar to those seen following other vaccines, such as pain and tenderness at the injection site, or fever, headache, muscle aches, and fatigue. These are responses in view of the formation of antibodies in the human body, as well as the metabolic changes that the body will naturally respond during the formation of the antibodies, which will lead to the buildup of immunity in the body. So it is a natural physiological response of the body, and it's not something that one needs to worry about. Now, some key messages. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause millions of infections and over 1 million deaths across the world. And a vaccine to prevent COVID-19 is the most effective way to control the pandemic. And scientists today across the world have worked to develop vaccines which have then been rigorously tested for both its safety and efficacy. It is crucial that COVID-19 vaccine is safely and effectively delivered to as many of those eligible as possible. And those with a role in delivering the COVID-19 vaccine program are knowledgeable, confident, and competent in order to promote confidence in the vaccination program and deliver the vaccine safely. Now, the COVID-19 vaccination will help you from getting a COVID-19 infection. And getting a COVID-19 vaccine will help create an immune response in your body against the virus. And it may help keep you from getting severely ill even if you do get the COVID-19. Now, what do we expect before, during, and after the vaccination? Before, you are supposed to learn about the vaccines and see if this vaccination is recommended for you. And that is obvious on your My Sejahtera app. During the vaccination, you're supposed to read the fact sheet that is given to you at the vaccination center that tells you about the specific COVID-19 vaccine that you received. And finally, you receive a vaccination record card from the center. And after the vaccination, you can be expected to experience some side effects, but you are to continue using all the measures to protect yourself and others. Vaccination is one measure to help stop the pandemic. While COVID-19 messenger RNA vaccines appear to be highly effective, additional preventive tools remain important to limit the spread of the COVID-19. The combination of getting vaccinated and following CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control in the US, recommendations to protect yourself and others offers the best protection from COVID-19. So you are to continue covering your nose and mouth with a mask. Staying at least 6 feet from people who don't live with you, avoid crowds and poorly ventilated and indoor spaces, and practicing by keeping your hands clean through washing with appropriate detergent. Choosing to get vaccinated when it is offered. This is one way to protect yourself, your family, friends, co-workers, and your entire community. Participating in a very safe program and help monitor for any health effects after the vaccination, and sharing your experience with your colleagues, friends, and family. Knowing the basics about the COVID-19 vaccine help to answer questions from your family and friends, and show you have received the vaccine by wearing a sticker or button prominently. This is immediately after the vaccination. Now, where and when to get your vaccine? In Malaysia, it is apparent by registering on MySejahtera is only being wise and responsible. Grabbing the first available appointment for any vaccine administered, be it Sinovac, AstraZeneca, or Pfizer. And all vaccines give protections based on the basic principles of vaccinology and developed from the biomedical science of microbiology, immunology, and human physiology since the time of Edward Jenner, who I mentioned earlier, from the 18th century. And any adverse effects, if any, following vaccination can be reported to your nearest doctor that is then monitored by the Ministry of Health. Under the Ministry of Health, there is a specific unit called the Adverse Effect Following Immunization, or the AEFI unit, which monitors this very diligently and closely. After vaccination, some pointers to continue COVID-19 prevention measures: continue covering your nose and mouth with a mask, keeping the 6 feet distance from people who don't live with you, avoiding crowds and poorly ventilated spaces, washing your hands, and cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. Effectiveness of the vaccine. Let's consider this a little bit more. Manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines need to show evidence that they will be effective. Otherwise, they will not be able to use it in patient administration. They do this by showing a reduction in virus levels in animal studies where the vaccines were used, and that people in the trials have made an antibody response to the vaccine. Vaccine effectiveness can be calculated by comparing the number of cases of COVID-19 diseases in trial participants who receive COVID-19 vaccine with the number of trial participants who receive a placebo, which is a blank, or alternative, which is a non-COVID-19 vaccine. So this is how clearly controlled clinical trials are conducted. And those running these clinical trials look at antibody response after 1 dose and 2 doses at different dosages of the vaccine, and with different time intervals between the vaccine doses and in different age groups. That is as rigorous as clinical trials can be. And over time, they continue to monitor how long the antibodies last and the effect on antibody levels if a booster dose is given, and whether the vaccine only stops people from becoming severely ill or if it also stops them spreading the virus too. So that gives you a short overview, and Last but not least, remember there is a Delta variant of the virus that is circulating, started in India, moved to UK, it is now found in North America, and it is also now in Asia. And the latest findings have proven that vaccines are effective, that is a good news, against Delta variant, especially those developed with the messenger RNA or mRNA method, which is Pfizer and AstraZeneca. In Pfizer, it is messenger RNA, which is enclosed in a lipid capsule. In the case of AstraZeneca, is a messenger RNA, which is enclosed in a vector carrier, which is actually just an empty viral protein coat. Single first dose gives up to 30% immunity, followed by up to 90% protection with a second dose. And with the widespread of the Delta variant globally, it is very important to vaccinate as a defense against this variant. So that is a short overview on the rationale and the importance of vaccinating against the current pandemic.